Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast, where I give you practical Stoic advice for modern times. If you'd like to see more information about this podcast, or if you'd like to see more of my free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com. But for now, I really hope that you enjoy this podcast, and if you do, then I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review so that more people can have the chance to listen to this great work. Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast. So, before I get into the main episode, again, just like in the last episode, I'd really like to read just a few more reviews from some amazing listeners. So this first one comes from FFJA27. So whoever you are, thank you so much for this review. But they said, "Thank you for the great podcast. I'm just beginning to study Stoicism, and I find this to be a great resource, easy to understand and learn from." So thank you so much for that person's review. I really appreciate it, and keep on listening. The next one comes from JHS72782. This is some really great podcast review aliases here. Anyway, they say, "Great delivery, timing, humor, and reference. Modern insight of classic philosophy/lifestyle." So thank you so much for that review. I really appreciate it, and keep on listening. And this next one comes from Rihendo. I think I'm saying that right. And they said, "His demeanor and tone are well suited for a Stoic podcast. I've already gained a lot of wisdom and knowledge. His teachings are organized and well thought out. Very little rambling. That's become the norm with some podcasts. Keep it up." Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the very specific review there. I love it. And this is the last one that I wanted to read. Comes from Okinawa Salt Cookie. Awesome. And they said, "I enjoy listening to this podcast to get practical and brief ideas of how to incorporate Stoicism in my daily life." So thank you so much to that person. I really appreciate it, and keep on listening. And there's plenty more coming up. So thank you to all of the people who have reviewed my podcast. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't done so far, then please do feel free to do that. It's so helpful. It's a really great way to get the podcast out to other people who might enjoy it just as much as you. But anyway, getting into the main part of this podcast. In this episode, I want to start by asking you a question. And it's actually a quote, but I have no idea where it originated. So if anybody actually knows, then please get in touch with me. Anyway, the question is this: when all is said and done, will you have said more than you have done? Think about this for a moment. Think about your life. Think about your achievements, your failures, your adventures, your goals, your relationships, all the things that you said you were going to do. Does this question resonate with you? If you really think about it, do you talk more often than you act? I think in this age of the internet and social media, where it's so easy to build yourself up into something that you're not, it's becoming a real challenge to separate the talkers from the doers, or to distinguish between the people who talk about change and the people who are proactively creating change, be it in their own personal development or their community, their business, their family, or their country. So I'll ask you, are you a talker or are you a doer? The Stoics had a pretty firm opinion about which type of person we should be, and I'm pretty sure that you already know what they thought. One of my favorite quotes on this subject, and really one of my all-time favorite quotes, comes from Marcus Aurelius. It's short, but it makes a firm point. He said, quote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." End quote. This quote is simple, its point is clear, and I think it's one of the most badass things that I've ever read. Be a good person. Be who you say you are. Be the person who you keep on saying you want to be. Stop talking and start being. I understand that this is often easier said than done, no pun intended, but if you will learn to put actions before words, your life will soon become a shining example of what action and discipline can do. We all know people who are constantly talking. They're always parading their latest venture or their newest project. These are the same people who start one diet, tell everybody how much weight they're going to lose, and then they fail, and then they start a new diet the next month and repeat the whole cycle again. These are the people who talk about how they're going to be making a ton of money with their new idea, or how they can lift 50 kilograms heavier than you. They're constantly inflating their ego with their imagination and their words. And they need everyone to know just how happy and successful they are, or will be once this new deal comes through. I know a lot about this type of person because I took a look at my life and I can see that I've definitely acted like that sometimes. I've told people about my plans which never eventuated. I've talked about my new health plans which never got me healthy. I've talked about my adventures which didn't get me any closer to who or where I wanted to be. I like to think that I've moved on from being that type of person, but again, easier said than done. A large part of my growth in this area has been thanks to the teachings of the Stoics, who praised the doers and shunned the talkers. A good example may be Seneca's rant on fake students, which I discussed in episode number 11. In his rant, it was clear that he was not a fan of people who would listen to teachers only for entertainment. They called themselves students, but they were anything but students. They acted like students, but they didn't walk the talk. Even Zeno of Citium, the founder of the Stoic school, believed that it was better to act than to talk. He said, quote, "Better to trip with the foot than with the tongue," end quote. I interpret this to say that we must act before we talk. We must become who we want to be before we tell others who we will be. It's okay to go on a diet and fail, but what if you already told people that you were going to lose 10 kilograms, and now you haven't? Now you're no healthier, and you've also injured your reputation. A few months ago, I was on Skype with my brother, who currently lives with his wife in Washington, D.C. He told me that they might have some cool projects coming up, but that he wanted to wait a while before talking about it. I pestered him every time we Skyped, but for a few months he said absolutely nothing about his plans. Although I really wanted to know, I recognized that what he was doing was extremely impressive. What he was demonstrating to me was that he is a person of action, not a person of words. He was demonstrating that he was not interested in talking about being someone, but instead he actually wanted to be that someone. He showed me that if he was going to talk about anything, it would only be about projects that he was confident about, or about projects that he had already started and seen results with. This was a move of integrity, and I gained even more respect for him. There are so many benefits to becoming a person of action, and I'd like to talk about a few of them. First, when you talk less and do more, then you build up your reputation in a way that is unbreakable. You can build your reputation by talking, but in my view, this creates a bubble that will soon burst as soon as people see who you truly are. I'm reminded of the story I read a while ago where a rapper had posted a picture of himself on a standard passenger plane, but he made it seem like he was on a private jet flying to his gig. But there was a problem. See, one of his fans was on the same flight and took a picture of him. Within a few hours, the entire internet had discovered that he was not who he pretended to be. This is an example of that bubble that I was talking about. He talked himself up to be a major celebrity, but the bubble had to burst sometime. The only true way to build up a strong reputation is through your actions. The next benefit of becoming a person of action is the confidence that you'll feel. It's truly amazing to know that you've actually achieved something instead of just talking about it. It might be fun to talk about goals, but going after them is much more fulfilling. Acting on your goals before talking about them is kind of like weight training for the mind. With each step forward, you become a healthier, better, and more confident person. Imagine, for example, that you're in a situation where you have to fight to protect yourself. Now, if before this moment you had done lots of strength training and martial arts, then I'm sure that you'd feel pretty confident with your ability to protect yourself. If, however, you had never trained in your life, then you'd be scared out of your mind. This is like the contrast between talking and doing. If you're faced with a new challenge in life, then it's best if you've been a person of action, because you'll always know that you can actually handle the situation. A person who only ever talks themselves up will be frightened of many situations in life because they are unsure of just how much pressure they can actually handle. Another benefit of acting instead of talking is actually quite scientific and interesting. It's based around this idea that many of the benefits that we receive from achieving our goals actually come from the feelings that we get when people see us achieve them. For example, you might have a goal to buy a new car, but really what you want is to be admired by other people. So based on this idea, some scientists have agreed that if you announce your intentions or goals, this may actually backfire and limit your chances of achieving that said goal. For example, let's say that you want to go and study to become a nutritionist. You know a lot about nutrition from your own research, and you tell your friends that you're going to do it. You're finally going to start a course and become a nutritionist. But now that your friends all admire you and kind of think of you as a nutritionist, you've already achieved a large part of that psychological reward of achieving this goal. And so you may be less likely to put in as much effort into studying and achieving this goal than if you had said nothing. Finally, another benefit of keeping quiet is the fact that you can save face if you don't end up achieving what you wanted. And also, if you do end up succeeding, then the admiration that you receive will be far greater than if you had talked about your plans. So, before I end, I just want to ask you one more time. At the end of your life, will you have said more than you have done? Be a doer, not a talker. Choose to act on your ideas instead of talking about them until nobody cares. You owe it to yourself, and you owe it to the person who you can become if you will put actions before words. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and once again, thank you to all of those of you who have reviewed the podcast. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, then please feel free to go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com, and you can send me an email via that contact page. Otherwise, just go to my Facebook page. It's Simon Drew, or it's Daily Stoic Quotes. On my Daily Stoic Quotes page, I try to post a Stoic quote every single day, so if you want to have that inspiration in your life, then please feel free to like that page and you'll see those every day. Unless I'm being extremely lazy, in which case I am very, very sorry in advance. Anyway, thank you so much again. I'll see you in the next episode, but for now, I hope that this episode has helped you on your rise to the good life. Ciao. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I really hope that it's valuable to you, and I really hope that it helps you to live a better life. If it has been valuable to you, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review. If you'd like to see more free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com.